feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the Dane Moore NBA podcast. We are brought to you by Prize Picks, coming at you Thursday morning. It's June 26th. After last night, the Wolves selected Joan Beringer with the number 17 pick, an 18-year-old 7-footer from France who played professionally in the Adriatic League in Slovenia last season. Got Tyler Metcalf from No Ceilings here with me, who knows a lot more about him than you. Tyler knows the draft inside and out. So for all of us who didn't know that Joan reads Joan, Tyler's going to help us know this kid's game. I also got a handful of good clips last night at the press availability from Matt Lloyd, Wolves GM, that I want to play and mix in here too, so we get a little bit of the Wolves perspective as well. But Tyler, I looked it up. You had Beringer exactly number 17 on your board. This morning, I was listening to your guys' live stream. Hanson Gang went 16, so the stream was a little drunk when the Wolves pick rolled around at 17. But you popped in to be like, I love this pick. You love the pick. Tell me more.
Yeah, and it took us a moment to recover after what Portland did. So, apologies to anyone who's watching live if we didn't dive fully into the Timberwolves coverage, but that's why we're here.
Yes.
Yeah, Beringer was one of the fastest risers because throughout this draft cycle, and especially this last month or so, a lot of people thought he was going to go to Atlanta at like 13. But then, they went a different direction and did something else. And I was talking to some Wolves people in the morning. I was like, all right, I know you're not going to answer this really, but I have to ask, who's your dream scenario? And, they gave me a guard, wing, and center. I'm like, cool. So you're covering all your bases here, not really giving me a sign. But they're like, we don't think any of them are going to be there. So it's like, we'll see what happens. And chaos happened in front of them. And a couple of those guys that they mentioned fell to them, and they went with Beringer. And I absolutely love the pick. It'll be fascinating to see how quickly he gets integrated into what they're doing. Because he is still super raw. He's only been playing basketball for a couple of years. Started out as a soccer player, but then grew so much that he couldn't find cleats that fit his feet. So his friends were like, hey, why don't you come try basketball? And now he's in the NBA. Must be nice. Insane physical tools. Could very realistic outcome that he's the best defensive center from this class. Really good hands catching stuff, but incredibly limited on offense.
Let's do the background part first. I mean, you touched on some of that there. His soccer player into basketball player later in life. I'm curious because I know you watched it. What his season in Slovenia looked like. I mean, I would just recommend to do this for everybody listening right now. No Ceilings, where Tyler works, has like a 15-minute clip sort of breakdown of Beringer. That's actually, I think, really helpful it's the type of player you got to kind of see. If you're just looking at this and you're like 7-foot French dude, Rudy Gobert 2.0, which was kind of what I did was thinking before I clicked play. Nope. This looks very different. Just stylistically, they're basically the biggest similarity is they don't shoot. They're around the basket guys. So check that out on No Ceilings for clips of what this actually looks like. But clips don't tell the story of what his role was or what it looked like. I mean, I know this was his first year playing professional basketball, but what was that season like for him?
It was one where he just got better every single game, and from really young guys with freak athletic tools. That's what you hope to see, because especially in with high school guys, we see a lot of these top recruits who just kind of flame out because in high school they were ranked so high because they're so physically dominant compared to their peers that they never really learned how to play basketball. They just relied on the physical tools and went from there. Now, that's kind of how Beringer was at the start of the year, playing in a pro league overseas, but being so new to the game, you can see his discipline, his recognition, his processing speed, all mainly on defense, improve by the game. And with someone that young, that athletic, whose number one sales pitch is, look at these freaking athletic tools,
Totally.
That's what you want to see though, because the mental game has to catch up at some point, and the fact that we saw it progress so rapidly throughout this season was really, really encouraging, and one of the main reasons that he skyrocketed up boards. Like when you look at some of the, some other bigs who are either still on the board or went after Beringer, like a Yannick Conan Niederhauser from Penn State, and like some of his
Sick
defensive, incredible name. But like some of his defensive metrics this year are insane. And you're like, why is this guy not a top 20 pick? And then you watch the film and it's like, oh, well, because you're jumping at everything. You're super undisciplined. The motor kind of comes and goes. And with Beringer, you see him close out under control and not bite on pump fakes. And even when he doesn't get a block, he's getting a decent contest on it. So the fact that we saw that type of cerebral advancement that rapidly this early in his career is really exciting when we try and think about, okay, now what does he look like in 2 years after being with NBA vets and NBA coaches and NBA development system and film crew and all that kind of stuff. And apologies to Niederhauser, didn't mean the drive by there. It was a good pick by the Clippers.
Right. So when you watched him for the first time, or first time maybe this season, and he hadn't been taking these steps of development, where did you have him then? Was he back in, I don't know, the fall, winter? Was he a draft prospect? Was he going to be drafted? Was it a second round pick sort of thing? I guess I'm trying to ask, what is the delta of growth over the course of this year in terms of his kind of star ascending this year?
Yeah, and he was on a couple French U18, U20 FIBA teams. And it's like, oh, this guy's interesting long term. And then right around December, January, things really started to pick up where he started gaining some buzz. In the public sphere, I think Gavoni may have been the first one to put something out publicly of Joan Beringer starting to grab some attention, playing really well. And my co-host on the No Ceilings pod, we did, I think it was in January, we did a really specific breakdown of his film, because it's all right, if this guy's really rising up boards, let's take a look. And it's just immediate. The motor, the physical tools, the mobility, the defensive potential is obvious. And it's okay, this is really fun, but is it fringe lottery fun or potential first round draft and stash fun?
Mm-hmm.
And that in January, we're if he stays in, he could climb into the top 20, but right now he's kind of looking like that fringe first rounder. And then every single month, it just got better. The processing speed, the discipline, the footwork, all that kind of stuff just continued. The flashes became a little more strung out and turned into sequences and turned into quarters and halves and games. And it's oh, this feels really real. And he's for sure staying in and could be one of the best international guys from this draft.
It was interesting when we talked to Matt Lloyd last night, and I'll play this clip here, but it was a long process for the Wolves, in that they had a workout with him 4 days ago in Chicago that he said kind of closed the book there. But they've been tracking this like you guys have, probably even before you guys have, and they've had people there. They went there to scout him. But I think it was interesting that this workout that happened in Chicago kind of sealed the deal. Here's Matt Lloyd.
For the Timberwolves, we were really excited, and I wanted to say a big shout out to Johan's agent, Jelani Floyd from Wasserman. He was excellent, his communication, and he facilitated a late workout for us last weekend in Chicago. We had to travel to go see him, but at the end of the day, it was worth it. And it was one of those throwback, old school, when I first started scouting, workouts where we were able to get him in a high school gym and really kind of close the book on the evaluation. He had someone we'd been tracking for the entire season. We had connections on his team in Slovenia, and they alerted him to us early. We got to go see him early, and it turned out great. We weren't sure he was going to make it there, and we were pretty elated when he did.
It was interesting, Tyler, that when he was describing this workout. The Wolves had Alonzo G, who's on their staff, play against Beringer one-on-one. People might remember Alonzo G was in the NBA for 8 years, about a decade ago. And they're talking about that was kind of like a turning point in understanding his physicality. And he does look like you turn on the tape and it looks like a skinny kid. But my one area that I like to dig into, it helps me for my mind is to look at like some of the measurements of what a player measured like and what other players in the NBA are the same size, literally in height, wingspan, weight. And the weight part stood out to me for Beringer of being 235, and it's like the Kalel Ware height, 6'11" without shoes, so we're talking about what we call a 7-footer, 7'4.5" wingspan. But the 235 part surprised me, and it sounded like it kind of surprised the Wolves and what the 235 felt like, and that there is a physicality to him that I think is really important when you do think about these type of jitterbuggy type of fives that you really drafted them to outrun other bigs, and Beringer will do that. But it's a lot of those guys, you think about like the Jackson Hayeses and those type of players, they're a problem at times because they can't move anybody or they get moved by other fives in the league. And Beringer would probably, correct me if I'm wrong, he'd probably get moved right now, but he is 235. And it seems like there's a sturdy foundation there that is a true center size with kind of beyond true center athletic tools there. How important did you see that in your evaluation of him to be the physicality element in addition to the athleticism, which is the thing that really pops?
Yeah, and physicality is massive. And typically when we, or at least when I really hone in on that stuff, it's with smaller guards and their ability to get to the rim, and something like Jeremiah Fears, who he's like 6'3", like 170 or something, but he should be going into his freshman year, right? And it's like, all right, well, this guy gets to the rim a ton because he's faster than everyone, but what does he do when he gets there? It's like, is he avoiding contact? Is he avoiding fouls and trying to finish around guys, or is he going into the contact and initiating that and drawing fouls? And it's easy to add strength and muscle and get these guys stronger. That's the easy part. What's difficult is shifting that mentality from being a finesse player to a physical player. And we see time and time again, the vast majority of guys who succeed on winning teams are those guys who have some sense of physicality. Now, pivoting that back to centers, I don't worry about that at all with Beringer, because the measurements were fantastic. 6'11" barefoot, and he's moving like that at 235 with a 7'4.5" wingspan. It's perfect measurements. Like, from a physical standpoint, it's exactly what you want from your modern center rim protector. At least, defensively.
Right.
And then we look at the age and where he's at developmentally, and he's 18. He doesn't turn 19 till November. So he's still super young. He plays with a sense of physicality. Is he going to get moved early on by Jokic and Embiid and whoever?
Garza.
Sure, yeah, because because most guys do. But he's gonna fight. Like, it doesn't matter if he gets moved. Like, even if he gets moved, he's gonna make you earn it. It's not gonna get moved and then he's done. It's not like, ow, that hurt.
Yeah.
Woe is me. It's all right. Well, I'm coming right back at you, and you're gonna have to move me again and again and again. And then he has the length to recover. So that mentality that I just talked about with the guards who avoid contact and shy away from that kind of stuff in the paint, I think is really applicable for young centers too, because I don't have any of those concerns with Beringer. Does he need to get a little stronger? Sure, he's 18. Like, show me a teenager that doesn't get stronger, especially in a professional sport.
That's my question, is like, how much stronger is this going to be? Like 235, are we talking about putting on like 15 pounds over the next couple of years? Like,
I would guess 10-ish,
10,
but like of good solid muscle and putting it on in the right spots. And
like 245 is big.
Yeah.
Big. Like he does not look like he's 235 pounds, right? Or when you watch the tape, and I don't know, maybe he's even put on some weight since the combine or whatever, or since the tape, because he was at the combine and weighed in at 235, which frankly shocked me.
Yeah, and there's also ways to keep it within that 235 to 240 range, which is probably what they're going to do, because they don't want to lose that mobility and that lateral quickness that he has.
Mhm.
And if you get up in the 250 range, that could very quickly start to disappear, because he's also super light on his feet, super quick off the floor. And obviously, the more weight you add, the worse that gets. And that's one of the big selling points with him. So maybe that 240-ish range is probably a little more applicable for where he may end up, but maximizing each pound and making sure that it's where it needs to be in terms of upper body, and that, especially that lower body strength, and being able to hold his own. So and on top of that, with the physicality and the concerns about getting moved, I mean, I do think there's a bit of craft that a little more experience when it will really kind of help hinder any of those issues, where once he starts getting a little more used to how these guys are moving him, he can then just slight reposition of himself and then use his length to contest. Because I mean, Chet Holmgren gets moved all the time, doesn't stop him from being one of the best rim protectors in the league already. So I'm not comparing Beringer to Chet Holmgren, just to be clear. But
I get what you're saying.
But he has a similar length to contest when he does get moved and recover to certain spots.
Today's show is brought to you by Your Home Improvement Company, and we know there are a chunk of you out there who have a home improvement project that you need to get done this summer. And if that is you, if you are one of those people, I know you're out there, would love it if you went to yourhomeimprovement.co.com to learn about what they have to offer, or by calling 866-777-YHIC. They do still have the 2 free windows after you buy 2 windows deal going. All of their installations are done by certified professionals. They have the bathroom renovation deal still going on, 30% off a bathroom remodel. Could be a simple tub to shower conversion or a full-on bathroom remodel. They'll honor that 30% off deal. Also, those bathroom renovations are done with a lifetime warranty. Whatever the project is, Your Home Improvement Company offers great financing deals that require 0 money down, 0 interest, and 0 payments until 2026. Contact Your Home Improvement Company by calling 866-777-YHIC or by going to yourhomeimprovement.co.com. Your Home Improvement Company, where it's your home made better. Today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks. And I know the NBA season is over, but there is still plenty to do over at Prize Picks. You can make a WNBA lineup, MLB lineup, soccer, tennis, golf. I told you they got the 4th of July hot dog eating contest on there. Whatever it is, you can pile them all together and make your daily fantasy lineup by putting 2 or more picks in your lineup to win. Keep an eye on the promotions tab. I was noticing today, Thursday, they have a $20 protected play on a WNBA lineup. Submit a lineup of WNBA players, and if it doesn't hit, you get your money back up to $20. Then Friday is tomorrow. That's Flex Friday, $35 protected play every Friday on a flex lineup. And the best promotion I think they have is the new user bonus. If you use the promo code Dane when you sign up, your account will receive $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's PrizePicks.com and the PrizePicks app. Use promo code Dane when you create your account. Tyler, I want to talk a little bit about the speed. That's the number one thing that stood out to me, again, watching your guys' video and kind of initially coming from the thought process of, Gobert 2.0. It looks very different in speed, first and foremost. And that's what I asked Matt Lloyd about. I'll play this clip first.
What role do you feel like how important speed is for fives in the NBA?
Yeah,
that seems to pop.
I so appreciate that question. Defensive versatility is the order of the day for a 5 in the NBA, unless you're an elite Hall of Fame level drop defender like Rudy Gobert is. So we think Joan's going to have the ability to kind of, in those scramble situations in playoff games, he'll be able to hold up a wing or a guard in a switch if he has to. His mobility and his flexibility and his speed are so elite that they should transfer over in some positive way. So it's not necessarily one single thing that we look at, the broader defensive versatility piece when applying and evaluating bigs is so critical now.
So Tyler, there's better drop coverage centers out there, like probably still on the board, right now. But this prioritization of versatility, and particularly after what we just watched in the playoffs, like you need that from your bigs, or if your bigs cannot give you that defensive versatility, doesn't mean they can't play in the playoffs. The like getting played off the floor thing is actually very rare. But what we've seen, and even with Gobert, is it can really limit the lineups that you might want to play against. And as we saw with Rudy, it's like 25 minutes a game in the playoffs or something like that, when, typically you're starting center or one of your highest paid players, you would want to be playing 35 plus minutes in the playoffs. And this isn't to say that Beringer could come in and play in the playoffs next season, but the idealized version of him, when it comes to fruition, you would have no concerns about who your opponent is and his ability to be able to play in that series, because defensively, he, as Matt just said there, shows the ability to, if you're needing to switch everything, or if they're trying to get switches, they believe he's going to be able to handle himself in that. And we saw plenty of clips from last season of him being a blitz and pick and roll guys, getting it out on switches. It wasn't, we watch a lot of these other draft prospects, fives, particularly NCAA guys that are 7 feet, and they're exclusively playing drop. He has experience of playing defensively versatile. And I think that, again, this is to some extent a lottery ticket, as any number 17 pick would be, but particularly for an 18-year-old, the payoff of this is the rare five that you can play in any matchup, even if a team goes small or even if a team goes gigantically big. The idealized version of Beringer can handle that, correct?
Yeah, and especially when we look at the other bigs in this class, the only one that kind of comes close to rivaling Beringer's defensive versatility is Malawach, and his highs are awesome. I don't think he has the consistency that Beringer does defending in space. But then you look at basically everyone else, whether it's Thomas Sorber, Derek Queen, Ryan Kalkbrenner, Yannick Conan Niederhauser, Maxime Reynaud. They're all really aggressive drop coverage, and their college system just planted them in the paint because there's no defensive 3 seconds. So yeah, you have the 7-2 guy, just throw him around the rim, obviously. And with Beringer, it's almost like that Jared Vanderbilt mentality and mobility and almost Rudy Gobert's body, where now I know that sounds like a Hall of Fame level defender. So I
get what you're saying.
Not trying to overinflate expectations.
Yeah. No, it's the big that is like,
but like the high
not
wall
only
stuff that they were playing a couple years ago,
absolutely.
he can do that. He can blitz and recover. He can hedge and recover. He can switch when needed. You probably
or he did it. He did it in that league. He did that in that league, and I think that's part of would be my question of, you're playing against guards in the Adriatic League who, if you do blitz that, probably aren't between splitting it, right? Like, it's kind of like they're going to get off of it and he's going to recover back. I think we got to see what it looks like in Summer League against fast guards. He'll play against certainly some other lottery pick guard at some point in Summer League, and that'll be interesting to see, because I don't think even what the quality of the guards that he was going up against or wings in switches, because that is a lower level. But in that tape, very, very, he was doing it. He was doing it in that league, which I think is at least at a minimum gives you encouragement that could come in the NBA.
Yeah, and what makes me more encouraged about it translating, obviously maybe not immediately because he's 19 in November, but down the road is how quick his hips are. So the foot speed, the straight line speed, the lateral ability, the way he slides his feet is great. But where we see a lot of these 7-foot centers get exposed in space is when they get that high foot attacked and guys cross them over and they can't change directions. A lot of these guys are incredibly good at moving their feet when they're able to keep the ball on one side. But where Beringer really showed some like holy crap defensive stuff is when that high foot of his got attacked and he was just flipping his hips in the blink of an eye and then just staying attached to the ball handler.
Right.
And again, it's not NBA all-star level point guards that he's going up against, but the fact that the hips are moving that fluidly and that quickly already, it's like, oh, well, yeah, obviously this guy grew up playing soccer. Like he moves like a soccer player. He has the footwork and the hips of a soccer player. And it's so obvious in how he moves on the court.
Some bigs can literally never develop that skill.
Yeah.
And still
Because
play in the league.
they're massive, and it's
Right.
something that you wouldn't expect someone who's 7 feet tall to do. And that, that's one of the tricky parts when you look at or evaluate some of these guys coming into the draft. It's like, oh man, he can't flip his hips in space, like he can't move in space. It's
Right.
like, well, yeah, he's one of the biggest people on the planet. Like he's not supposed to be doing that. So the fact that Beringer is, it's like, oh, man, that's fun.
I feel like we often talk about that in the ability to basically pivot and change directions, flip your hips on the perimeter with bigs. I feel like with him, that element is encouraging in the paint as well. From okay, I'm on the big, or I'm the rotating low man over, and I got a show here to take away the short roll and recover to the guy who's diving from the corner. That is another place where a lot of bigs, they like slowly turn themselves, like he's there, and that's where a lot of the shot blocks came, because the offensive players, at least in that league, seemed almost surprised that he got there in that time. And for me, that's always like underline that, like that is athleticism in practice, when the player you're playing against in their head does not believe you can get to where they are by the time that they take the shot. And it's defensive highlights and stuff like that, but this isn't like once or twice. He played and moved like that every time he was in coverage, because that is what makes him a special defender at this point.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought up the stuff about the interior defense, because of that mobility, especially in like when we see him in drop coverage, which he'll have to play in the NBA, but it allows him to play that cat and mouse game where he's able to kind of stunt at the ball handler, make them hesitate. When they hesitate and fake a pass, he's able to recover and then show again. And then once that pocket pass comes, he's right there. And he's so quick and light on his feet that he's also there contesting. He's not just pretending to play defense. He's getting that 7'4" wingspan up and not biting at fakes, which is incredibly impressive. And we see that kind of footwork in drop coverage, where he's so light, really active. And then also when he's closing out to like corner shooters, he's not flying by, he's not closing out under control. We see him close out high hand, low defensive stance, and it allows him to use that hip mobility. If they attack one way, he's able to flip. If not, he's able to stay attached to their hips. It's just, guys that big aren't supposed to move like that.
Yeah, he doesn't look chaotic
No.
for how as athletic he is, and oftentimes
most guys of that archetype do.
Yes, they do. That really stood out to me. Or sometimes the guys who have to chaotically close out have to, because that's the only way they can get there. You know what I mean? And for him, it was just kind of like, I can kind of move here at my pace, and even if you get that first step on me, he has that recoverability that, again, in that league, deleted guys. But it at least looks fast enough that will also translate over to the NBA level, if not immediately, shortly thereafter. I think a lot of the questions, or for me, or I don't have a good read on it, on the offensive side of the floor of what exactly this is going to look like. I'll play the Matt Lloyd clip on Beringer's offense first, and then I'm curious what you have there.
Where are his first building blocks on offense?
Yeah, we were pretty encouraged about his like 15-foot and in game when we worked him out, and it's not something that they really challenged him to do at times at Cedevita Olympia. I have a good friend on the coaching staff who promised me that he can shoot 15, 17 feet. We saw it at the workout. Not saying he's going to come out and, be Steph Curry or anything like that, but just the vertical spacing with his pick and roll game, playing on the baseline and then expanding it outward. I think there's some capacity for growth there. He'll be functional enough. Chris Finch likes to run all the dribble handoffs from the bigs and stuff. He'll have a capacity to do that. It's just going to be the part of his natural growth and progression.
So Tyler, the dribble handoff stuff isn't important for bigs who can't shoot, which Beringer is going to come in and not be able to shoot threes. But why that's important is it allows you to remain a threat on the perimeter as the big. And, if nobody's guarding you out there and you have the ball, well, you say, Ant, give me the ball here on the perimeter. I'm just going to give you a handoff. You're going to be wide open to take that three. That's how the Wolves have taken advantage of the limited shooting or zero shooting that they have in Rudy Gobert and limited shooting that they have in Julius Randle. So I think to a system fit, they already have a system where the 4s and 5s outside of Nas are not, clear floor spacers. There's room for that. They don't play 5-out offense. I don't think, frankly, they will anytime soon. So to that end, you could see him folding it. There isn't like a new archetype of big for them to use. But to what extent are you concerned? What concerns are there about his offensive game? I muted you. Hold on. Your mic's muted. There
Sorry.
you go.
Rookie move. I'm trying to be respectful of Matt talking, and the ball skills really aren't there. So I don't expect a Nasri, Karl Anthony Towns type of offensive infusion. I just really like him as an offensive rebounder, rim runner, really athletic, and I like the hands a lot. I think he catches a lot of stuff. A lot of clips of him running those empty corner DHOs and pick and rolls, and then catching pocket passes down at his knees or going up and slamming home maneuvers.
At his knees?
Yeah. He gets
Whoa.
down there. I know.
I haven't seen that in a while.
Wolves fans are salivating at that. It's like, oh my God, the versatility. But and then on middle pick and rolls, when he gets that runway too, when he factor in the explosiveness with that straight line speed, and he's a freight train going to the rim. So
yeah,
I'm more skeptical on the jumper, and maybe like a little.
It looks like a free throw. No matter where he is,
it looks uncomfortable. It's very slow. It's mechanics need a lot of work. Maybe there's some touch stuff there that they're a little more encouraged about. But I mean, he took 15 jumpers this year, so it's for me
37 of his 80 baskets were dunks.
Yeah, that's who he is, and probably who he'll be for the vast majority, if not all, of his career. Now they're obviously more connected. They had a private workout with him, so maybe they saw more encouraging stuff with the push shot and some of the touch. There are occasional flashes of that, but when you get like 1 out of 15 examples, it's like, oh, look at that swish. It's like, okay, well, yeah, you made one, so cool, but he only took 15 jumpers. It's not something I would project or hope for or get excited about. Maybe down the road, a little, short roll, push shot, 15-foot jumper, like Matt was saying in those clips, maybe that comes along, but from go, I would expect more just offensive rebounding, rim running type stuff.
It's interesting how he kind of fits into this Wolves younger group, right? And well, actually, what I want to say first is to the lob threat point of it is start talking about the Wolves a little bit more broadly here. They need to learn how to throw lobs. That is a requirement for this team, because first and foremost, because you have Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert has found a way to serve some purpose on offense, despite playing on a team who does not have Ant throwing him lobs. Conley doesn't have the ball often enough or draw the attention to throw Rudy lobs. That is an element of this Wolves offense that has to develop. They have to develop bigs on the roll, finishing at the rim, because the two bigs they are now invested in cannot shoot the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, right now, at least for Beringer and definitely for Rudy, don't have that 8-footer shot either, the little Hartenstein, right? Like, this is critical. And the Wolves and Tim Conley and Matt Lloyd and the rest of that front office, this is a bet on we are going to start doing that. Ant is going to develop that. The other, Julius, isn't great there either. I mean, Cat was probably and Kyle Anderson were significantly better at that 2 seasons ago than personnel was on the Wolves team this year. And that's part of the reason why Rudy did not have as good of an offensive season and this year as he did 2 years ago. And I'm watching these clips. I'm like, oh, damn, lob threat. Like, this is nice. And I'm like,
no one threw lobs.
yeah, who's going to give it to, So I just wanted to highlight that of like, this is only unlocked. The skill sets that he has offensively are unlocked by his teammates, much like Rudy Gobert's are. And if they're not unlocked, they just become glorified offensive rebounders, which isn't nothing. Rudy won a playoff game by doing that in LA in Game 5, but they need that element to it. He needs that in his game. Beringer.
Yeah. So I just real quick, I do think where Beringer is going to get billed as this athletic rim runner, and yes, the vertical spacing is really good, but I think where he kind of starts to pivot away from what Rudy does on the roll is that his footwork and body control is a lot better. Where there are some flashes of him catching in the short roll and spinning and finishing with like an offhand layup or something like that. It's not every time.
Good
He's
point.
purely a play finisher, but the body control, the footwork, and the flashes of some finesse finishes around the rim are really, really encouraging. And then just the variance in catch capabilities, also much more encouraging.
Today's show is brought to you by Adriana Lonick at Coldwell Banker Realty. And if it is time for you to buy or sell your home, please do reach out to Adriana Lonick at Coldwell Banker Realty to help you with the process. All you need to do to get started is go to thedancingrealtor.com, as I have up on the screen here, or you can call or text Adriana at 715-304-9920 to book a free strategy session. Adriana is licensed in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and we'd love it if you just kind of get the ball rolling with her on this process. Again, it's a free strategy session to help you better understand where you are at in your home buying process and where she can help you grow here. You really do need a realtor in this process. And if you're thinking about this, if it's on your mind, if it's something coming up in the next year, just reach out. Do that free strategy session with Adriana. Again, you can get more information about her and her company by going to thedancingrealtor.com or by calling or texting her at 715-304-9920. And if you do schedule one of those free strategy sessions with her, you will be registered to win some free Wolves tickets from us. Again, dancingrealtor.com or 715-304-9920. You know these Wolves young players probably better than the rest of us do, because a lot of the Wolves young players have not had the chance to really play in the NBA, and we've really only seen them in preseason, summer league, and stuff like that. But this really stood out to me from Matt when he was talking last night about how really they have a full squad now of young talent that they are excited about here going forward. I wanted to play this clip from him.
Any sort of assertion that we don't have assets is incorrect, and we're going to see it at Summer League. And these guys have all been here for about 2.5 weeks getting ready for the Summer League. We have a really good crew of young players. I know you guys all know that because you're at practice and you see it. The market hasn't seen it yet, and the market is going to start seeing it at Summer League. So, I think his willingness to get into the draft and be aggressive works in our favor, because more likely than not, we're going to probably pick the right guy and we're going to place him into the player development program. And that's not like a subtle brag or anything. It's just the record. we're going to put him in the player development program that's produced Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and we should get a good result.
That wasn't the right clip that I was trying to play, Tyler. But that was a good clip there as well about the Wolves' young assets, and gets us excited for Summer League. And I think there are true elements to that. If Matt's perception of what they're doing in practice and what they're seeing does in fact translate over to Summer League, and then the market is recognizing that. The young core part of it, how he put it was, they have like a young guy at each position now. Beringer now at the 5 as the 17th pick in this draft. They took Leonard Miller, power forward, that they're excited about. 2 seasons ago, 33rd overall, or 2 drafts ago in 2023. They have Terrence Shannon Jr., who was the 27th pick last year. He's a little bit older, but recently with the group, Jalen Clark was the 52nd pick in the 2023 draft at shooting guard. And then, of course, Rob Dillingham at the 1, who was the 8th overall pick in the 24 draft. It's really interesting to me how, not just for the Wolves, but a lot of teams, I think, are being more intentional about restocking the coffers or keeping the coffers stocked, because what is just naturally going to happen in the salary cap environment, particularly if you're a good team that's already expensive, is pieces are going to begin falling off the ship, and to have literally a full squad. We didn't even mention Josh Minot in there either. That can really plug in for anybody that they are to lose. Nikhil's an obvious one that people are pointing at right now. Let's see if he resigns or go elsewhere. Okay, you got Terrence Shannon Jr. And Jalen Clark who can plug that in. But what's happening now, I think, with Beringer and Leonard Miller to some extent is you also have that amongst the bigs. And I just, for a team that's gone to the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago, 2 years in a row, they do not have a ton of draft pick assets, but they have to have as much young player currently on the roster assets as anybody else in the league. Or how would you compare that to the rest of the league? How unique is it to have, sort of that level of group existing almost completely outside of your rotation?
Yeah, it feels really rare, because the gold standard is obviously OKC and the way they've built their team up through the draft, and then used free agency to address specific needs, like with Hartenstein, or a 1-for-1 trade for Caruso. But I think the big difference there, when we go down the bench and look, player for player, I don't think the depth is all that different, but the big difference is the Thunder play their young guys. So we kind of get a sense of who Aaron Wiggins is, who, AJ Mitchell is, and these guys get acclimated. So then when they are called upon in the playoffs or late in the season or something in a big game because someone got hurt or someone's sick or it's an off night or whatever, they're ready to go. And that's one of the, I love the Wolves' young depth with all the names you just rattled off. There's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of athleticism there, a lot of versatility, but they never play. So then when they do get to play, it's like a deer in headlights, because it's NBA speed, physicality, and matchups that they've had zero exposure to. And then they struggle. And, I'm not using this as an opportunity to dog on Finch. I think he's an awesome coach. But at some point, you got to start integrating these guys into the system and, the speed and physicality of the league. Because if you don't, it gets really tricky. And that value, the intrigue of, oh man, what could he be? It goes away really quickly if we never see it, because if we don't see it, teams' immediate impression is like, well, if you didn't play him, why would we?
Yeah, right. I'm glad you brought up OKC, because, watching them for the last few years, and I think there's been reporting on this, they had specific plans for their players to include them in the rotation. It was like scheduled into the plan of the season to be playing an AJ Mitchell. Ousmane Dieng, has consistently gotten opportunities, and not just when somebody's sick or hurt or whatever. Like, that is built into the Oklahoma City player development plan
Yeah.
is giving them opportunities during the regular season to be able to play. And because of that, they found value in kind of mining that to be like, okay, there is something here in AJ Mitchell and he can play right now,
Mhm.
and conversely, they tried it with Dylan Jones this year and they found out he can't play,
Yeah.
right now, or maybe isn't going to be a piece that they're going to invest in because they gave him that opportunity. And I don't want to talk out both sides of my mouth because I was the guy who got it. Why Finch was only rolling with 8 this season.
Especially
And
after
I
the
think
move they made. They had to figure out the chemistry with the top guys, and OKC has that
sure.
established. So I get it.
Yeah, it's just both can be true. And the more depth of options that you have as the Wolves has grown, further pushes that need, I think, to be giving some of these guys opportunity or baking it into your development plan. So very curious to see how that plays out in practice, because the reality of the situation is going to be the same as last season with Finch, where it's not that he didn't like the guys. He was just like, the expectation is to win right now.
Yeah.
Playing guys like that, doing the Dylan Jones thing, if you're the Wolves, and that might have cost them 2 or 3 wins, or even just 1 win, over the course of the season.
But
And
that
are
puts
you in
them
the play-in now? Yeah, right. Like, so it goes both ways. But I'm now like shifting into the idea that it's more than just Shannon and Clark and Dillingham. There's a lot here behind, and some of them are going to need to be left out of the rotation, of course, completely. But all of them can't be. Otherwise, you're squandering something here.
Yeah, and the best way to learn and develop and improve is to play. And that's why it's like when these like fringe first round one and done freshmen come into the league, it's like, man, you're not going to get minutes. Like your development is going to get just ruined because you're going to be at best playing in the G League, which is a totally different brand of basketball. And at worst, you're just going to be plopped at the end of the bench, never getting minutes for 2 years. And, that's kind of what we've seen with Josh Minot, where he was incredibly raw coming in, but he's never gotten the opportunity to play. And, for good reason in some cases. But my kind of hope with this team for this next year is that, who knows, maybe there's another major roster overhaul here in the next couple months. But if they do have that same cohesion going into next year, that we start to see some of those young guys get 5 to 10 minutes a night, at least early in the season, to try and figure out, it's like, all right, can this rotation go 9 deep for the regular season to keep some of these guys healthy and fresh for the playoffs? And hey, maybe we strike gold on some off the bench wild card that we weren't expecting.
Last thing, the number 31 pick. They have the first pick in the second round tonight. We're obviously recording this Thursday morning, so that has not yet happened. Here's Matt Lloyd when asked about 31 last night, and then Tyler, I want to get your take on 31.
Like as you come in tomorrow, do you think?
Man, I mean, we just were watching the end to see who was still going to be there, and I'm sure he's upstairs right now with one of those like 2 phones right now, going talking to agents as to what the assessment of the draft will be. But there are going to be good players there, and I think teams will be. It's the second year of the 2-day draft, so someone told me last year that Toronto was getting offered future first round picks, So we're going to have to kind of line that up and see what the offers are, and we may just draft another guy. So we don't know yet. We don't know yet.
Tyler, there's a lot of value for this team in trading that, and and having if they can get a future first, as Matt said there. Toronto drafted 31st last year and apparently got offers on that. That has to be a consideration for the Wolves here. That's a little boring. If they were to take somebody at 31, knowing the Wolves the way you do and knowing the draft, what do you like here?
I would keep an eye on Rasheer Fleming, the St. Joseph's forward. Physical marvel.
Keep an eye on it.
Really improved as a shooter this year. Not sure he can dribble or pass at all, which is a problem. But
it fits.
Massive, and he's built like a defensive end, and he's like he's arguably one of the most athletic guys in this class with the power, the speed, the agility, and the fact that he grew to like around a 40% spot up shooter off the catch this year is huge. So I think he's by far the most intriguing guy left on the board. Um, After that, it gets a little murky because like a lot of my next best available are centers like a Bogey Markovic, Ryan Kalkbrenner, Maxime Renault. I'd be shocked if they walk away with two centers, but you never know.
I would imagine a reality could be trading back, or getting rid of that and having maybe another pick later. I think strategically, a draft and stash guy would make a little sense. Now the Wolves, after having drafted somebody at 17, and they just have a pretty full roster right now. If they trade back, I think you could see a draft and stash guy. I think you could see a two-way player that they draft somebody and give them a two-way, so they're not on the cap, they're not on the immediate roster. Are there any guys that you think would meet that criteria that you have your eye on? You know what I'm saying?
Outside the first round, the international class is pretty rough. Like there are some deep cuts with like an Eli Ndiaye from Real Madrid, a Saluni
Could draft Spagnuolo again?
Yeah. I think Bolmaro might be available. I saw Gabriel Procida was over at the Utah Jazz facility the other day. And if they trade back, and I think Rasheer Fleming is the crown jewel right now in the second round. The defense, rebounding, physicality, athleticism, shooting, rim
you
running,
think
all that
like
kind of
just
stuff.
get him?
I
He's
think so.
That good. Just do it, even though it doesn't make sense.
If their opinion on him has maybe shifted, or they're just if they just don't see it, and if they're getting future first offers for this, I think you kind of just have to take it. That's boring though, but and there are some really fun shooters like a Kobe Brea, who's a 6'7" sniper, was over 45% from three the last couple years. A Duthiero, almost the exact opposite of Kobe Brea, where he's this freak athlete, just infusion of chaos and defense. The shot is gross. Chaz Lanier, gunner from Tennessee, just huge spark plug scorer off the bench, has apparently been killing workouts. I would kind of expect him to go top 40. Noah Penda, French forward. I know the Wolves worked him out. He's not my cup of tea. He just feels like the same player for the last 3 years, but theoretically, really smart player, solid passer. If you buy the shot, that's kind of the big swing skill with him. But smart defender, some real inconsistencies with the on-ball stuff, especially. But some people have him top 20. I don't see it, but if that's the kind of type of archetype you're looking to swing on, makes some sense as well.
I feel like this front office is just like hungry to draft guys.
They love it.
Like they just love the draft. So what I was going to ask you, because you know people from a bunch of different teams, I'm always curious about that like mentality of the people in the front office, specifically the guys who have been grinding draft stuff for, the entire year, oftentimes years on these guys. There's got to be some real like internal discipline to allow yourself to trade out, and be patient, because I'm sure if you love Rasheer Fleming, somebody in that front office is like we gotta just because it's the thing you've been obsessing about for so long. Do you think teams struggle to let go of picks just because they have? Matt talked about that a little bit last night. Like, we put in all this intel work, all this sort of stuff. Like, you kind of let that just float away, and your trips to Lithuania or whatever are just like, that's irrelevant. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, it seems like teams would be like, I don't want to give up this pick.
Yeah, and it's kind of like avoiding the sunk cost, because like if the board falls in a certain way and it's like your guys are gone, it's like, oh man, but we did all this work. Like I want to pick someone. It's
right.
It's like, okay, well, but then like you look at like what New Orleans did last night, and they're giving up future unprotected first to jump up. It's like, what are you doing? And it's that lack of discipline, that rough process where it's like, okay, so we still have some NBA front offices who are doing that kind of stuff. And it would have been, I'm sure, is really tempting for the Wolves. Like I know Beringer was really high on their list last night. I know they're thrilled about him. I know a couple other guys were really high on their list. And as they started falling, outside of the top 10, outside of 12, 13, like every spot, I'm sure they were at some point they were like, oh man, like do we need to trade up?
Right.
Like what's the value of us jumping 4 spots? Like, should we do it? Does it make sense? And then it's like, oh, okay, well, if we just have that discipline and we stay patient, it's like, oh, more and more chaos is happening. So our guys are just kind of falling to us. I think a similar thing happened like with Miami at 20, where and Utah jumped them to get Walter Clayton. That's one of the worst kept secrets, was that he apparently had a promise from Miami. He was dressed like he was going to Miami, and then Utah jumps, and then all of a sudden, Kasparis Yakashonis, who I had at 8 on my board, and a lot of people had as a top 10 player, falls to them at 20. It's like, okay, sometimes just not doing anything and having that discipline to be like, take a breath, don't panic, it can really, really work out.
Yeah, and it's gonna be interesting. I think the way I'm thinking about 31 is like it just will have an opportunity cost of you probably then do need to get rid of somebody on the current roster. They got team options on Minot and Garza. And so if you take somebody at 31, he's going to probably need to take one of those guys' spots. But I'm cool with the idea of you're addicted to the draft, trade back, get somebody later, stash them, get somebody that will agree to be in a 2-way. I just don't know, right? Like at 31, guys aren't normally 2-way guys, right?
That's typically like post 40 or so. I think that 31
more and more 2-way guys in the second now, but 31, I don't know. It just is kind of too valuable of a pick. Or you can get too good of a player on like a 4-year minimum contract deal. There's just a lot of value there. So I would kind of be surprised, not knowing anything, but just looking at it, be surprised if they took someone there. But they will need to fight that internal bird on the shoulder. This is awesome, man. What happens next at No Ceilings? Like, what does the next couple weeks look like? I'm sure you guys get a ton of eyeballs and stuff like that in these last few weeks, last month leading up to the draft. But what's now and what's the value that you guys are providing in your content here, kind of going forward?
Yeah, and tonight, Thursday, we'll obviously be live for the whole second round. Last night, our stream's still up on YouTube, podcast feed, all that good stuff. And we were also
go to the Wolves part of it. Tyler's the only one who talks about it. It's so funny.
I tried. I tried.
Going back and they're like, hold on. It's like 21 and Yakashonis is drafted, and it was just Tyler was like, the other Tyler was like, I got to go back to Yang.
It was wild. I can't believe I woke up. I'm like, that wasn't real, was it? And it turns out it was.
It's real.
But yeah, we also had like a running list of immediate reactions from first round grades from the first round picks, and then going forward, we'll have a 2026 mock up on Friday, I believe. We'll have a best undrafted guys available up on Monday, and then we're going to be doing a whole bunch of kind of preview stuff over on the YouTube channel. I'll be doing a bunch of film breakdowns on what these teams are getting in a lot of their first round picks. I'll have one up on Joan Beringer, kind of breaking down some of the defensive stuff, why it should be really exciting. We'll have summer league stuff. We'll be out there. So if you're out of summer league, come say hi.
You're coming this year?
Yep. There'll be a handful of us
cool.
out there. So not the whole crew, but like 4 or 5 of us.
Awesome.
And then a whole bunch of just kind of preview stuff with incoming freshmen, what their games look like, transfers, what their games look like, what they bring to the teams. And then we're going to kind of keep trying to build up more and more NBA, young NBA player stuff with how they're developing, how they fit, the good, the bad, all that good stuff.
I will tweet out for listeners. I will tweet out the Beringer video from No Ceilings, and so you can find that. But even if you're just looking for other teams, other guys, it's great. It's like 15 minutes of just clips, and it really familiarizes you, I think, more than kind of highlights do. It's a little bit more technical in that way. So definitely check that out. Really love what you guys are doing, and appreciate you coming on multiple times here in the last few weeks.
My pleasure. Appreciate you having me.
I'm not sure when we're going to do another pod. If something happens tonight, maybe we'll do one Friday, but for sure we'll have a little bit more reaction to the second round here coming soon. So that's what will be up next. And then we got Naz Reid contract extension coming on Saturday, potentially. And that's when he becomes eligible. That's when he becomes eligible. I don't know. I'm expecting it. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I'm expecting it. So we'll see. And if something happens there, we'll react to that too. But in the meantime, check out everything Tyler and the crew is doing over at No Ceilings. And we'll be back here to break down whatever happens with the Wolves. Until then, he's Tyler. I'm Dane. Peace out.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah. Don't let standards ever bring you down, yeah.